Hey gang, as promised, I have another great DIY home renovation video for you. But before we get started, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. It'll really help me out. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make your own luxury vinyl plank stair treads. That's right, luxury. Don't forget that part. Today's video is kind of a long one, so before I get started, I'm going to explain a few things to you. First and foremost, there was a lot of trial and error involved in making this video. In the interest of time, I didn't show you every single thing I did and all the little mistakes I made along the way. But I want you to know that before I did anything with my full-length stair treads, I always cut a test piece. Whether it was figuring out how to thin them, whether it was figuring out the lengths and widths, I was always cutting test pieces to make sure I had it right before I went in and did it with an actual stair plank. It took quite a bit of time, like I mentioned, so I didn't put it in the video, but I wanted to explain that to you if you're going to try this yourself, mainly because it's going to save you a lot of money. Every single scrap piece I cut off of my original stair treads, I used for test pieces, or almost every single piece. So just keep that in mind if you're doing this yourself. If you watch this entire video, you may have also noticed that I wasn't able to complete the project. There are a few risers that have yet to be installed. Unfortunately, the flooring that I want to use is on back order at Home Depot. So I can't lay the flooring in my entryway, nor can I lay the flooring in my living room and kitchen and dining room, which totals about 800 square feet. So if any of you work at Home Depot or maybe an executive there and can put the wheels in motion to get this flooring restocked, that would be fantastic. It's a luxury vinyl plank flooring from Home Decorators collection. It's in maple syrup color. If I could get a whole pallet, that would be awesome. But I'll settle for several of the boxes if I need to. I just want to get this done. So the first thing you're going to want to do is make a stair tread measuring device. You could buy one yourself on Amazon or at your local hardware store for $50 or more, or you could make one yourself out of some scrap wood and a couple dollars worth of hardware. So that's what I'm going to do. It's not fancy, but it'll get the job done. And since I don't see myself installing stair treads as a career, it'll probably work just fine. The basic design of this device is very simple. You're going to take a board that is slightly shorter than your stair tread length and add a couple of angled pieces like you see here that can be adjusted in and out as well as adjust to fit an angle. And then you're going to transfer the length that you measured with that device and the angle that you measured with the two flapper pieces onto your stair tread or your vinyl plank flooring, as the case may be. Here you will see I am attaching both of my patented stair jig flappers with a bolt and a wing nut on each side. I would also recommend using a washer, but I didn't have one, so I went without it. Finally, you'll notice I'm attaching a small piece of wood to the bottom of my flappers. Yep, I'm going with flappers, henceforth. I do this so that all three pieces of my device will lie nice and flat on the floor plank, making it easy to transfer my measurements from the step. Or at least they would lie nice and flat had I not used a warped piece of wood for the middle, but it worked out just fine in the end. Don't mind my wife, she's just digging in the garbage, no big deal. Now I'm ready to make the second tool in my stair tread arsenal. It consists of two boards that are approximately the length of a stair tread, some good sturdy canvas, and a whole lot of staples. The plan is to use this tool, if you can even call it that, to bend my vinyl plank flooring around my existing stair treads, making them look like regular stair treads. If you were having trouble understanding how this stair tread measuring device works, observe. I took the measurement of my stairs, and I am now transferring both the length and the angle to a stair tread. It's as simple as that. This piece I'm cutting is actually a replacement stair tread. In an act of lunacy, I went ahead and removed one of my existing stair treads, thinking for some reason there would be another tread underneath it. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes people do stupid things. That's my explanation. My camera crew was super excited about installing this stair tread. So, if you are prone to motion sickness, please look away. Don't worry, I got a much bigger tube of toothpaste to glue down the rest of the stairs. I just didn't want this one to go to waste. I'm also going to remove and replace all of my risers for this project. This isn't completely necessary, but I wanted to give myself as much stair lip as I could. Alright, just a couple more to go, and then the whole next flight of stairs. Throughout this process, I tried several different strategies for making my own stair treads, and I finally settled on one that I like. But to get there, I had to try a few that I don't like. So, enjoy. Strategy 1 was to lay a full width plank down on my step, and then measure and cut a second plank which would lock in with the first and wrap around under the step. Spoiler alert, it didn't turn out well. I used a dado blade on my table saw to thin the floor plank in the spot where I wanted to wrap it around the step. I think if you had a really good dado stack, this would be the way to go, but my blade just didn't seem to cut very cleanly. After thinning the pieces on my table saw, I glued them down on the step, and then I used a heat gun to heat them up so they could be bent around the step. From the looks of things, I don't think I went quite thin enough on this plank, which will explain what happens next. After heating the plank for quite some time, I could not get it to bend around the step, so I returned to the garage in defeat and headed for my router table. I used a 3/4 inch straight bit, which made nice clean cuts, but the trade-off was that it took much longer than using the dado stack, so keep that in mind if you want to try this yourself. Technique number 2 offered a little more success. I was able to bend the plank around the stair and clamp it in place, but I just wasn't quite happy with the result. I found it very difficult to get the right width of plank so that it would wrap all the way around the step and hit or nearly hit the riser on the bottom side, even with my nice pink tape measure. On top of that, I couldn't wrap it so that it would stay nice and snug to the underside of my stair, which left it looking kind of goofy. So, back to the drawing board for yet another try. Hopefully the third time is the charm. After rethinking my strategy, I went to Lowe's and got another stair tread that was the same thickness as the ones in my house. Using this tread as a mold, I was able to figure out exactly what I needed to do to get the stair treads to work how I wanted them. With a lot of trial and error, I was able to figure out exactly where I needed to thin the plank and exactly where I needed to put it on the mold in order to get the plank to fit the stair how I wanted it. From there, it was a simple matter of repeating the process several times until I had enough stair treads. You may be asking yourself, Self, Why does he keep starting on the same end with that heat gun? Why doesn't he just go back and forth? Well, I do that so that I heat the plank as evenly as possible. Any difference in heat or thickness of the plank could result in a weird bending of the plank, meaning that it's not going to fit nice and tight against the stair, which is not what I want. I wish I could lay out all the steps to this process, measurements, thicknesses, and things of that nature, so that you could repeat the process on your own, but there are so many variables with doing this project that it just wouldn't make sense. I even had to adjust my process slightly for every step that I did, because they were slightly different widths, slightly different lengths, and slightly different angles. My hope is that by watching this video, you have the tools that you need to figure out how to make your own vinyl plank flooring, even if you don't know the exact specifications that I used. Well, it took a whole lot of trial and error, but I was able to finish my stair treads. Don't they look nice? But wait, there's more. I still have to put in the risers. I purchased pre-primed risers. After running the numbers, I found that making them myself just didn't make a whole lot of sense. I lightly sanded them with some 220 grit sandpaper, and then I hit them with my paint sprayer. Unfortunately, it was really cold outside, and I think that led my sprayer to malfunction, so when I went to do the second coat, I ended up having to use a roller instead. It took a little extra time, but I couldn't be happier with the finished product. Cutting the risers was fairly simple. I just had to adjust the width and the length to fit the step. Unfortunately, at least one of those dimensions tended to be different from one step to the next, so I had to take individual measurements for each step and adjust my table saw accordingly for each riser, which of course added quite a bit of time to the process. Once I had them cut, I simply put them in place and nailed them down with my nail gun. They fit really snugly, and I actually broke a couple of them in the process, but it all worked out in the end.